إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا إنه من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. I appreciate everybody sitting on this side today. That's why vision is stronger on this side. Barakallahu feekum. We continue today with the explanation of the tremendous poem Manhaj al Haqq, the methodology of truth, by Shaykh Abdul Rahman ibn Nasir as-Sa'adi rahimahullah ta'ala. He continues on the 45th line of poetry here on page 65. I believe we have the projector coming, inshallah. وَإِيَّاكَ وَالْمَرْءَ الَّذِي إِنْ صَحِبْتَهُ خَسِرْتَ خَسَارًا لَيْسَ فِيهِ تَرَدُّدُ. And I warn you, or be cautious, أحذرك وإياك يعني أحذرك وإياك, and I caution you against such a man that were you to accompany him, be his companion, خسرت, then you will have lost as a consequence and result of that. خسارًا, with a tremendous loss, ليس فيه تردد, about which there is no taraddud, about which there is no hesitation, meaning that mubashara, directly, you will be immediately impacted and affected by this suhbatun sayyi'ah, and this bad companionship. Shaykh Abdul Razak al-Abbad, he says, يحذر رحمه الله تعالى من قرين السوء وخليط الفساد. Here, the author is warning against having an evil companion and a corrupt person that is socialized with. وَمَنْ صُحْبَتُهُ شَرٌّ عَلَى الْإِنسَانِ. And he is warning against any person whose companionship and company would be evil and harmful for a person. سواء من أرباب البدع والمقالات الباطلة, whether that person is from the adherence to innovations and false beliefs, أو من أصحاب الفسوق والمعاصي والآثام, or whether that person is from the people of sinfulness, disobedience, and wickedness openly. لأن مصاحبة مثل هؤلاء ومباسطتهم تؤدي إلى تأثر بهم. Because being in the companionship of such people and opening yourself up, he said, mubasata, and being jovial and cordial and open and friendly and accommodating to such people, تؤدي إلى تأثر بهم, directly leads to being impacted and affected by them. إلا إذا جلس مؤثرا بما آتاه الله من العلم والنصيحة والبيان. Unless his contact with this person is to sit with this person, to have an effect upon them with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has endowed him with of knowledge and advice and clarifying affairs of religion. As a Shaykh Muqbil rahimahullah ta'ala famously used to say, اعتزل عن الناس إلا فيما ينفعهم. I advise you to seclude yourself from people, to not associate or socialize and fraternize with people a great deal, إلا فيما ينفعهم, and accept in that which will benefit them. And this is something that scholars of Islam have written entire books about, such as the book of the great scholar Abu Suhaylah al-Khattabi rahimahullah ta'ala, that is called Kitab al-Uzla, the book of al-Uzla, the book of al-Uzla, of distancing yourself from people, not socializing too much, so on and so forth. The scholars, they have a tremendous advice pertaining that. They say that the purpose of al-uzla is more to protect people from your harm than to protect yourself from them. Because if a person is jahil, if a person is ignorant and short-sighted, and they just look and they see the flaws of others and they don't see their own flaws, then this will cause them to have al-ujub, to be astonished with themselves. And so a person, when he sees that people are upon fusuq and ma'asi and atham, وَمَا مِنَّا إِلَّا, there's not a single person from us except that we are people who sin and commit disobedience. But obviously what is meant here is that if you can observe that, then this person is obviously doing that openly and publicly, shamelessly disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, doing things that are open acts of sin and disobedience while knowing better. And so a person should separate himself from these sorts of people, from the people of innovation, from those that hold false systems of belief, unless he is a person who is mu'ahhal, a person who has the qualifications and the suitability to be able to give advice, really, and not just having husnul dhan about himself, just thinking well about himself, that he can have an impact upon the people of innovation, so on and so forth. But the aami, the regular person, and that is the vast majority of people, and the beginning student of knowledge, and even the intermediate student of knowledge, and he must be very careful. If a person has some rusukh, and some firmness in their innovation, or if a person, and he has grown old upon their innovation, and it takes a lot of convincing and so on and so forth to call them away from their falsehood, and it requires mujadala. And we know the scholars of Islam, when you look in the books of Sunnah, as a matter of usul, as an asl from the usul of Ahl Sunnah, is that we don't argue with the people of innovation. We don't argue with the people of innovation. Some of the scholars, they mentioned that the condition after knowledge of arguing or debating with the innovator is that a person has the ability, after having knowledge, that it must be apparent that the person that you are talking to is a person who actually wants to be advised, that they have come to you istinsahan, with the intent of seeking sincere advice from you. And they're not just sitting to debate with you and confound you and confuse you and so on and so forth. And so sitting with a person who is like that, these people, the scholars, they call them thuqala. They call them thuqala, and entire books have been written about the akhbar al-thuqala, about the stories of thuqala. And you have people that are very hard and difficult to deal with, people that are, first and foremost, the people of innovation. As Imam Ahmed rahimahullah ta'ala, حينما سئل عن الثقلاء قال هم أهل البدع. And he was asked about the thuqala, he said they are the people of innovation, people of sinfulness and disobedience, that how they are, you shouldn't feel comfortable with them. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, al-arwahu junudun mujannada, فَمَتَى عَارَفَ مِنْهَا اَتَنَفْ وَمَتَى نَاكَرَ مِنْهَا اخْتَنَفْ. A hadith in Sahih Muslim, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that the souls are junudun mujannada. They are conscripted soldiers, assigned their orders and their sides. The souls are conscripted soldiers. Those that have ta'aruf between them, meaning they have similarities and goodness, good qualities that they share between themselves, then they tanaf, and they unite and they are in harmony with each other. وَمَا تَنَاكَرَ مِنْهَا اخْتَنَفْ. And those souls that have difference between them, that are upon munkarat, then they differ with each other. If a person is upon munkarat, then the person who is not like that shouldn't feel comfortable being in their company. And so he said, مُصَاحَبَةَ مِثْلِ هَؤُلَاء وَمُبَاسَطَتُهُمْ تُؤَدِّي إِلَى تَأَثُّرِ بِهِمْ. That associating with such people and opening yourself up to such people and feeling comfortable with them will lead you to being affected by them. The exception to that, he said, إِلَّا إِذَا جَلِسَ مُؤَثِّرًا بِمَا آتَاهُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ وَالنَّصِيحَةِ وَالْبَيَانِ. Unless he is sitting with these people in a limited sense, to have an effect upon them and an impact upon them by way of that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided for him of knowledge and the ability to advise and clarify things. أما إن جلس معهم مجالس مؤانسة ومباسطة فقد يأتي عليه يوم يكون فيه مثلهم متأثرا به. But as for the person who sits with them in his gatherings, feeling comfortable with them and opening himself up for them, then he will find that one day will come in the near future that he is affected and impacted by them. وفي زماننا هذا استجد نوع من الأصحاب والخلطاء لم يكن لهم وجود في الزمن السابق. And we find in the times in which we live that there have come about a type of friend, an associate that didn't exist in reality in the past. وأثر على جليسه تأثيرا خطيرا للغاية. And a type of sahib, a type of companion, something that you have in your company that has a tremendous and terrible and dangerous impact upon a person. وجنى على كثير من الناس جناية بالغة, and has an extensive impact in the crime that it and the offense that it commits against a person. ألا وهو مجالسة القنوات الفضائية ومواقع الشبكات العنكبوتية. فكثير من الناس أصبح له مع المواقع والقنوات صحبة يجالسها وجلسات طويلة جدا. He said, and what is referred to here is sitting and being in the company of the channels that are broadcast by way of the television and satellite dish and cable and so on and so forth, and sitting with the websites and the internet. Many people, by way of their sitting for long periods of time in inappropriate websites and watching inappropriate channels on the television. I don't know that there are appropriate channels, but whatever the case, that this has become a suhbah for him. This is an advice that was likewise given by Shaykh Muqbil rahimahullah ta'ala, as is found in the collection of advices that was collected by his daughter. He used to say that these things, and in those days he said, the VHS is like 8-track now, it doesn't really exist like that. Today we have DVDs, to the end of it, I think DVDs are even obsolete. Movies and the things that people watch and waste their time with. This has become a form of suhbah for a person, and it's going to have a ta'thir upon a person. It's going to have an impact and effect negatively upon a person. وَيَرَى الْأَشْخَاصَ الَّذِينَ يُصَاحِبُهُمْ فِي تِلْكَ الْقَنَوَاتِ أو الْمَوَاقِعِ. And he sees these individuals that he is in the company of on these channels or in these websites. وَيَسْمَعُ أَحَادِيثَهُمْ, and he hears their conversations. وَيُشَاهِدُ أَفْعَالَهُمْ, and he sees and observes and witnesses what they are doing. ثُمَّ مَعَ مَرِّ الْأَيَّامِ يَتَأَثَّرُ بِتِلْكَ الْأَخْلَاقِيَّاتِ. And then with the passage of days, he is affected by these immoral qualities and traits that they have. He is affected by these immoral qualities or these immoral traits and characteristics that they have. بل بذلك السفول والانحطاط والتردي والأعمال المشينة القبيحة. And on account of that, he falls into reprehensible character, and he has a moral collapse of conscience, and he falls into a taraddi, into destructive conduct and actions that are hideous and reprehensible. وَكَمْ مِنْ أُنَاسٍ جَنَتْ تِلْكَ الْمُشَاهَدَاتُ عَلَيْهِمْ جِنَايَةً عَظِيمَةً فِي أَدْيَانِهِمْ وَعِبَادَاتِهِمْ وَأَخْلَاقِهِمْ وَعُقُولِهِمْ وَأَحْدَثَتْ فِيهِمْ تَحَوُّلًا خَطِيرًا. نسأل الله السلامة والعافية. He said, how many people, by observing these things, have committed a great injustice and crime against themselves pertaining their practice of the religion, pertaining their worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, pertaining their character and morality, pertaining their uqul, and their intellects are affected by that. They become stupider by watching these things. وَأَحْدَثَتْ فِيهِمْ تَحَوُّلًا خَطِيرًا, to the extent that they have had that wasting their time with such things has had a terrible and dangerous caused a terrible and dangerous change within them. فَوَجَبَ أَخْذُ الْحَيْطَةِ وَالْحَذَرِ حَتَّى يَسْلَمَ لِلْمَرْءِ دِينُهُ. So it is mandatory for a person to be extremely cautious and to safeguard himself so that his religion can be protected. أما أن يكون مخاطرا بدينه بهذه الطريقة المزرية والعياذ بالله فهذا من أعظم الجنايات. He said, as for a person risking his religion with such a approach, and Allah's refuge is sought, فهذا من أعظم الجنايات, and this is from the most grave of offenses. وأعظم أسباب الخسران, and it is from the greatest causes of ruin and loss for a person. As the author, he said, خسرت خسارا ليس فيه تردد, that you will, on account of this marء الذي إن صحبته, this man that if you were in his companionship and to be a friend of his, then you will lose in such a way that there is no doubt about, there is no taraddud, there is no hesitancy in saying that you will be destroyed by this person, and there is no hesitation in the destruction that will come. أي بينا واضحا, meaning that this khasar, it is something that is clear. لا شك في وضوح خطورته ولا ريب, there is no doubt about the clear nature of its danger and no confusion about that. He continues with these adab al-suhba, with these qualities of a suhba, of companionship, with a very important advice. He says, rahimahullah ta'ala, قال سعدي rahimahullah ta'ala, in the 46th line of poetry, خذ العفو من أخلاق من قد صحبته كما يأمر الرحمن فيه ويرشد. خذ العفو. خذ meaning أقبل, يعني accept. العفو أي ما يتيسر من أخلاق الناس. لا تنتظر من الناس أن يتكلفوا لك. Don't expect for people to be around you how they really aren't, to put up a front for you, is the meaning of خذ العفو. It's taken from the statement of Allah, as He says here, يشير هذا البيت إلى قول الله سبحانه وتعالى خذ العفو وأمر بالعرف وأعرض عن الجاهلين. Accept al-afu from the people, and what is natural from their dispositions. Don't expect for people to be, don't have expectations for people above and beyond what is practical and how they are. If you deal with a Bedouin, don't expect him to be a gentleman. If you deal with an ignorant person, don't expect for him to behave in a dignified and knowledgeable fashion. Take people as they come. خذ العفو. And from the character, من قد صحبته كما يأمر الرحمن فيه ويرشد. From the traits of those that you accompany, as Ar-Rahman, as the most merciful subhanahu wa ta'ala, has ordered us in the Quran, and as He has educated and directed us to do. خذ العفو وأمر بالعرف وأعرض عن الجاهلين. Allah says in Surah Al-A'raf, which is, as we'll come to see, one of the most important verses in the Quran about good character. Accept that which is afu, and that which is simple and natural, وَأْمُرْ بِالْعُرْفِ, and order the people with that which is urf, that which is ma'ruf, aqlan wa shar'an wa adatan, and that which is deemed to be good, and the customs and the habits of people that don't oppose the religion, and rationally and logically and religiously. وَأَعْرِضْ عَنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. And as for the jahilin, and the jahil here is what is called the jahl of al-amal, and al-amali, al-jahl al-amali, which is as-safah. Al-jahilin huna, as-sufaha. وَأَعْرِضْ عَنَ السُّفَهَا. and accept that which is natural from the people, order them with that which is ma'ruf, and that which is easily for them, that which is readily acceptable by them, and easy for them to understand and accept. وَأَعْرِضْ عَنِ الْجَاهِلِينَ, and turn away, have no interest in the jahilin, and those that are jahilin, and meaning those that are sufaha, those that are foolish. As we know that jahl is used for two meanings. Jahl فيما يتعلق بالمعلومات, yani ignorance in that which is connected to information. A person may not know some things, so he can be educated. And then there's the jahl that is connected to a person's actions, which is a safa. This is a person يعني عدم النظر في عواقب الأمور, that a person doesn't look at the consequence of his behavior. He's nonchalant about his character. He doesn't care who he offends, who he turns away, and so on and so forth. The sufaha, yani, and turn away from the jahilin. The author, or the explainer rather of the poem, he said, وَهَذِهِ الْآيَةِ, and this verse, which is verse 199 of Surah Al-A'raf, كما قال غير واحد من أهل العلم, as many of the scholars have said, as we find in the books of tafsir and elsewhere, in the books of akhlaq, they have said here أجمع آية في باب الآداب والأخلاق, that this is the most comprehensive verse in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pertaining good character and pertaining proper etiquette. قال شيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية رحمه الله تعالى, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he said, وَهَذِهِ الْآيَةِ فِيهَا جِمَاعُ الْأَخْلَاقِ الْكَرِيمَةِ. This verse contains within it the entirety of noble character. فَإِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ مَعَ النَّاسِ إِمَّا أَن يَفْعَلُ مَعَهُ مَا يُحِبُّ أَوْ مَا يَكْرَهُ. فَإِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ مَعَ النَّاسِ إِمَّا أَن يَفْعَلُ مَعَهُ مَا يُحِبُّ أَوْ مَا يَكْرَهُ. Because a person's interacting with others, then their treatment of him will be either things that he likes or things that he dislikes. They will treat him in a manner that he likes or in a manner that he dislikes. فَأَمَرَ أَن يَأْخُذَ مِنْهُمْ فَأُمِرَ أَن يَأْخُذَ مِنْهُمْ مَا يُحِبُّ فَأُمِرَ أَن يَأْخُذَ مِنْهُمْ مَا يُحِبُّ مَا سَمَحُ بِهِ وَلَا يُطَالِبُهُمْ بِزِيَادَةٍ. And so he is instructed أَن يَأْخُذَ مِنْهُمْ مَا يُحِبُّ مَا سَمَحُ بِهِ, pertaining those things that they do, to accept and to take from them that which is مِنْ سَمَحَةِ أَنفُسِهِمْ, that which is easy for them to do. That which is easy for them to do, easy for them to give. That which is not forced, doesn't have any takalluf in it. Doesn't have any, that which is done naturally. That which is done naturally. وَلَا يُطَالِبُهُمْ بِزِيَادَةٍ. And he doesn't require from the people and expect from the people to do more than what is natural for them and easy for them. وَإِذَا فَعَلُوا مَعَهُ مَا يَكْرَهُ أَعْرَضَ عَنْهُمْ. And when he encounters from them that which they dislike, أَعْرَضَ عَنْهُمْ, then he turns away from them, pretending that which they do that he dislikes, and that he doesn't la yuqabilu, and he doesn't repay what they do of sayyi'ah, of poor conduct, with a sayyi'ah mithlaha, with a behavior that is similar to what he was shown. وللناظم رحمه الله تعالى كلام عظيم في بيان مدلول هذه الآية الكريمة في كتابه التفسير أشاد به تلميذه الشيخ محمد بن صالح العثيمين في مقدمته لتفسير الشيخ رحمه الله تعالى. And the author, Shaykh Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala, the author of the poem, has some tremendous speech that is found in his tafsir, explaining this verse in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that was praised and promoted by his student, Shaykh Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymeen, in the introduction that he wrote for the tafsir of Sa'di rahmatullahi alayhima. وَعَدَّهُ مِيزَةً مِنْ مِيزَاتِ هَذَا التَّفْسِيرِ. And he considered it to be from the things that distinguish this tafsir from any other book of tafsir. And he gave this example of what is found in this verse as a prime example of what is found in the tafsir of Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala that sets it apart from any other book of tafsir. وأن الشيخ رحمه الله تعالى اعتنى فيه بالجانب التربوي والتحذيب الأخلاق. And to demonstrate that the Shaykh rahimahullah ta'ala gave a great deal of importance in this tafsir to the affair of a tarbiyah, of raising people and nurturing the masses, وتحذيب الأخلاق, and disciplining the character of people. قال ابن سعدي رحمه الله تعالى هذه الآية جامعة لحسن الخلق مع الناس. Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala, he says that this verse, it gathers within itself, it has gathered within it and collected within it all that is entailed of good character with the people. وَمَا يَنْبَغِي فِي مُعَامَلَتِهِمْ, and that which is befitting in interacting with people. فَالَّذِي يَنْبَغِي أَنْ يُعَامَلَ بِهِ النَّاسُ أَنْ يَأْخُذَ الْعَفْوَ أي مَا سَمَحَتْ بِهِ أَنفُسُهُمْ. That which is befitting in his dealing with people is al-akhdhu bil-afu, that he takes what is afu, and meaning that which is easy from their dispositions. وَمَا سَهُلَ عَلَيْهِمْ مِنَ الْأَعْمَالِ وَالْأَخْلَاقِ, and that which is easy for them of behaviors and of character. فَلَا يُكَلِّفُهُمْ مَا لَا تَسْمَحُ بِهِ طَبَائِعُهُمْ بَلْ يَشْكُرُ مِنْ كُلِّ أَحَدٍ مَا قَابَلَهُ بِهِ. And he doesn't burden them with that which is not natural for them, but rather he is grateful from every person that which they have shown him of goodness in their statements and their actions that are beautiful. أو ما هو دون ذلك, or that which is a little short of the mark. ويتجاوز عن تقصيرهم. At the same time, he overlooks their shortcomings and their flaws. وَيَغُضُّ طَرْفَهُ عَنْ نَقْصِهِمْ, and he lowers his vision from focusing upon what is missing from the people that he encounters. وَلَا يَتَكَبَّرُ عَلَى الصَّغِيرِ لِصِغَرِهِ, and he doesn't exalt himself over a person who is younger than him because of his young age. وَلَا نَاقِصَ عَقْلٍ لِنَقْصِهِ, and he doesn't feel better about himself, and he doesn't feel big. يَتَكَبَّرْ, he isn't arrogant, and he making himself feel big when he deals with the person who is نَاقِصَ الْعَقْلِ, and a person who has a defect in their intellect because of their lack of intelligence. وَلَا الْفَقِيرَ لِفَقْرِهِ, and he doesn't look down at a poor person for their poverty. بَلْ يُعَامِلُ الْجَمِيعَ بِاللُّطْفِ وَالْمُقَابَلَةِ بِمَا تَقْتَضِيهِ الْحَالِ, but rather he deals with every person with gentleness, and he repays every person in kind according to the situation. وَتَنْشَرِحُ لَهُ صُدُورُهُمْ, and he feels comfortable with them. وَأْمُرْ بِالْعُرْفِ, the second part of the verse, and order them with what is urf, what is ma'ruf, meaning hey, بِكُلِّ قَوْلٍ حَسَنٍ وَفِعْلٍ جَمِيلٍ. Instruct the people encourage the people, meaning to do everything that is beautiful of statements and actions. وَخُلُقٍ كَامِلٍ, and perfect character. لِلْقَرِيبِ وَالْبَعِيدِ, instruct those and encourage those that are near and dear to you, and those that are ba'id, and those that are strangers to you. فَاجْعَلْ مَا يَأْتِي إِلَى النَّاسِ مِنْكَ إِمَّا تَعْلِيمُ عِلْمٍ أَوْ حَثٌّ عَلَى خَيْرٍ أَوْ صِلَةُ رَحْمٍ أَوْ بِرُّ وَالِدَيْنِ أَوْ إِصْلَاحٌ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ أَوْ نَصِيحَةٌ نَافِعَةٌ أَوْ رَأْيٌ مُصِيبٌ أَوْ مُعَاوَنَةٌ عَلَى بِرٍّ وَتَقْوَى أَوْ زَجْرٌ عَنْ قَبِيحٍ أو إرشاد إلى تحصيل مصلحة دينية ودنيوية. So what comes from you towards the people should be one of the following things, or all of the following things according to your capacity. It should either be you're teaching them beneficial knowledge, or encouraging them with good, or joining the ties of the womb. And your contact with them, with your family members, should be to join the ties of the womb. Or birru walidain, or benevolence and dutifulness towards the parents. Or islahun bayna nas, or working to mend and repair the broken relationships between people. Or nasihatu nafi'a, or beneficial advice. Or ra'yun musib, or a correct opinion that will benefit the people. Or mu'awanatun ala birrin wa taqwa, or that you aid and assist the people upon righteousness and piety. Or zajrun an qabih, or that you discourage the people from behavior that is hideous and unbecoming. Or irshadun ila tahsili maslahatin diniyatin or dunyawiyya, or that you are directing people towards that which will bring about for them benefit in their religious practice or in their worldly life. وَلَمَّا كَانَ لَابُدَّ مِنْ أَذِيَّةِ الْجَاهِلِ أَمَرَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى أَنْ يُقَابَلَ الْجَاهِلُ بِالْعِرَاضِ عَنْهُ. And in as much as that it is unavoidable for a person to be harmed by and annoyed by ignorant, foolish people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given that third instruction in the verse, which is that He tabaraka wa ta'ala, He has instructed us to repay an ignorant person by just simply turning away from him, simply not indulging him in his foolishness. وَعَدَمِ مُقَابَلَتِهِ بِجَهْلِهِ, and by not repaying his foolishness with foolishness. فَمَنْ آذَاكَ بِقَوْلِهِ أَوْ فِعْلِهِ لَا تُؤْذِيهِ وَمَنْ حَرَمَكَ لَا تَحْرِمْهُ وَمَنْ قَطَعَكَ فَصِلْهُ وَمَنْ ظَلَمَكَ فَعْدِلْ فِيهِ. He says, so if a person annoys you or abuses you or harms you with the statements or his actions, then do not repay that by harming or annoying them. And the person who deprives you of some good from them, then do not deprive them of your good. And the person who cuts you off, فَصِلْهُ, and who cuts off the ties of relations with you and your family member, فَصِلْهُ, then join the ties of the womb with that person. وَمَنْ ظَلَمَكَ فَعْدِلْ فِيهِ, and the person who oppresses you, then be just with that person. وَلَهُ كَلَامٌ أَوْسَعُ مِنْ هَذَا وَأَوْفَى فِي كِتَابِهِ الرِّيَاضِ النَّاظِرَةِ. And for a person, he mentions, for a person who wants to have further explanation of this verse, and he can go to the well-known book of a Shaykh Sa'adi rahimahullah ta'ala, that the subject of it is Mahasin al-Islam, the beauty of Islam, the book that is called Ar-Riyadh al-Nadhira, Ar-Riyadh al-Nadhira, and the luminous gardens, a book that is about the Mahasin of al-Aqaid wal-Akhlaq wal-Ibadat, and the beauty of Islamic beliefs and character and worship. في بيان دلائل هذه الآية وفوائدها الجليلة. And if they want to see the benefits, the tremendous and important benefits and advantages, or the dala'il, and what is demonstrated by this tremendous verse. He goes on to say, خُذْ الْعَفْوَ مِنْ أَخْلَاقِ مَنْ قَدْ صَحِبْتَهُ فِيهِ تَنْبِيحٌ إلى أن من تصاحب من الناس ليسوا على معدن واحد ولا على مستوى واحد في الأخلاق بل متفاوتون. He said that this statement of the author, خذ العفو من أخلاق من قد صحبته, take what is natural and unforced from the traits of those that you accompany, brings our attention to the fact that those that you come in contact with and those that you accompany, the friends that you have, and the associates and the confidants and friends that are on different levels that you have, that they are not from one single ma'adin, and they are not from one single quality and one single type, but rather they are upon different levels in their character and different levels in their dispositions. فَخُذُ الْعَفْوَ وَهُوَ مَا صَمَحَتْ بِهِ أَخْلَاقُ النَّاسِ حَسَبَ طِبَاعِهِمْ وَمَعَادِنِهِمْ. So you should accept that which is natural from the people, from their character, according to their natures and according to their ma'adin. Their ma'adin meaning their usul. According to their ma'adin, meaning according to their usul. And from that is, their lineage. And you see people that their fathers and grandfathers were generous people. Some people, their fathers and grandfathers, they were ashabul jur'ah. They were people of audacity. Some people, their fathers and their grandfathers were kadhabun, affakun. Some people, they come from a background of criminals. Some people, they come from a background of good people. And if you see a person had a tarbiyah sayyi'ah, a bad tarbiyah, then you can expect that there are going to be some things in that person that are going to be la yanbaghi, inappropriate. You see a person who spent a long period of time in prison. They accept Islam, they get out of prison. Perhaps they make a change for the better. فَبِهِ وَنِعْمَتْ. Perhaps they make a change, perhaps they don't make much of a change. Right? You see that the background of a person, the asl of a person, and his khalfiyah, has an effect upon him. And the ma'adin of people, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, لَتَجِدُنَّ النَّاسَ مَعَادٍ فَخِيَارُهُمْ فِي الْجَاهِلِيَةِ لَتَجِدُنَّ النَّاسِ. That you find the people without a doubt, with the noon of tawqid al-thaqila, ma'adin, بِحَسَبِ أُصُولِهِمْ, أَنْسَابِهِمْ. You find the people are according to where they came from. فَخِيَارُهُمْ فِي الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ خِيَارُهُمْ فِي الْإِسْلَامِ إِذَا فَقُهُوا. The best of them in Jahiliyyah are the best of them in Islam when they have fiqh, they have understanding about the religion. And so, a person, he should take all these things into consideration with his ashab, with those that he comes in contact with. Included in that is a wife. A person, when looking at those that they want to marry, they take the advice of the Salaf, as it was reported by Ibn Hibban rahimahullah ta'ala, the tremendous advice of it's a lengthy advice, I forget, the Al-Khattab ibn Mu'alla, Al-Khattab ibn al-Mu'alla, who was a person from the past. And from the advice that he gave his son, from the wasaya that he gave his son, he said, he advised you with any woman, and he described women that are like this, women that have good qualities and so on and so forth. And he said, فَإِنَّ الْأُصُولَ الطَّيِّبَةِ تُثْمِرُ ثَمَرَاتٍ طَيِّبَةٍ. Because good roots produce good fruits. Good roots produce good fruits. A woman, she could have a background with women that are strong-minded, intelligent, good towards their men, loyal towards their men, so on and so forth. And so because of how she was raised, that is passed down to her husband. He benefits from how her mother was. And another woman perhaps has a bad upbringing, a bad past, so on and so forth, and that reflects in her treatment of her husband. So a person should take these things into consideration in their suhbah with people, how their families were, how they were raised, so on and so forth. حَسَبَ تِبَاعِهِمْ وَمَعَادِنِهِمْ, the Shaykh says, according to their natures and according to their ma'adin, according to their backgrounds. وَلَا تَنْتَظِرْ الْكَمَالَ مِنَ الْجَمِيعِ وَلَا تَنْتَظِرَ الْكَمَالَ مِنَ الْجَمِيعِ. And don't expect for everybody to be perfect. As was stated by Ahmed ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi rahimahullah ta'ala in Mukhtasar Manhaj al Haqq, he said rahimahullah ta'ala, إِذَا تَنْتَظِرْ مِنَ النَّاسِ مَا لَا تَسْمَحُ بِهِ دَخَلْتَ فِي قَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى وَيْلٌ لِلْمُطَفِّفِينَ. That when you expect from people that which they cannot expect from you, when you expect from people that which you yourself don't abide by, you expect people to be on a certain pedestal and a certain standard that you yourself haven't reached, right? You see a person, he wants a woman to be with a certain specification that he marries, right? The woman that he marries, she has to be a certain specification. She has to be so attractive. She has to be on such a level of good, beautiful, attractive character, so on and so forth. And the person, he's out of shape. And the person, he dresses down. And the person, he doesn't take care of himself. and his character is chipped up and tore up from the floor up, and he expects a woman to be perfect. He expects a woman to be perfect. And the person who was like this, and he is from those that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned when He said, woe be to the mutaffifin. And those that, when they take measure and weight from the people, they demand their rights in full. But when the people expect their rights from them, they fall short of the mark. He said, وَلَا تَنْتَظِرَ الْكَمَالَ مِنَ الْجَمِيعِ. So don't expect everybody to be perfect. فَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَلْقَاكَ بِأَخْلَاقٍ كَرِيمَةٍ عَالِيَةٍ. Some people, they're going to come in contact with you. They're going to approach you with character that is beautiful and character that is noble. I missed something here. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَلْقَاكَ بِأَخْلَاقٍ سَيِّئَةٍ وَمُعَامَلَاتٍ غَلِيظَةٍ. Some people, they're going to approach you with bad character and harshness. فَخُذْ هَذَا وَذَاكَ. So accept this person as they are, and that person as they are. هذا تأخذه بالتقدير والاحترام وذاك تأخذه بالعفو والصفح. This person, the first person, and you respect and honor that person, and the second person you forgive and pardon and overlook that person's shortcomings. وَلَيْسَ مِنَ الضَّرُورِ أَنَّ مَنْ يُسِيءُ إِلَيْكَ هذه المرة أن يستمر مسيئا. He said, and it is not something that is just a given, as a necessity, that a person who mistreats you this time, that he's always going to mistreat you. And a person isn't defined by a single moment. A person isn't defined by a single moment. You have one bad interaction with a person, that doesn't define who that person is. You have one bad interaction, a person has one bad experience with their husband or their wife, that doesn't define who the husband and the wife is. The Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned, he said, وَرَأَيْتُ النَّارِ, and I saw the fire. وَرَأَيْتُ أَنْ أَكْثَرَ أَهْلِهَا النِّسَاءِ, and I saw that the majority of its denizens, of its people, were the women. From the reasons that he mentioned that, he said, يَكْفُرْن. He said that they have kufr. يَكْفُرْن mean they commit kufr, and kufran ni'mah. They are ungrateful. يَكْفُرْنَ الْعَشِيرِ وَيُكْثِرْنَ اللَّعْنِ. The Prophet ﷺ, he said they are ungrateful for their husbands, and they, when they get upset, they send a la'na upon people. They say, may Allah curse so and so and so and so and so and so. Right? The Prophet ﷺ, he said, لو أحسنت إلى إحداهن الدهر ثم رأت منك شيئا تكرهه تقول ما رأيت منك خيرا قط. That if you were to show kindness to her for her whole life, all the time, and then she sees one thing from you that she dislikes. I think every husband, every man knows the hadith, right? Then what? What? She'll say what? She sees one thing that she dislikes from you. I never saw any good from you. ما رأيت منك خيرا قط. I never ever saw any good from you. I never ever saw any good from you. So just as that is batil, if it comes from the mouth of emotional woman, and she says some things, not thinking about what she's saying, being very unfair in her speech, putting herself in a situation معرضة للعقوبة, subjecting herself to be punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the same is, Allah doesn't discriminate. The same is the case with every other person. One instance of bad experience with a person doesn't define who that person is. One person was less than honest with you, less than direct and transparent with you, doesn't make that person a kadhab, right? You see one statement of dishonesty that could have been an honest misunderstanding, or just wasn't an entire truth, so on and so forth, and all of a sudden the person is kadhab. Everything that comes out of his mouth, he's lying out of his lying lie hole. Nothing, you're just blind to everything that he says, right? It doesn't make the person a liar. A person who lies one time, right? A person who is oppressive one time doesn't make that person dhaloom. A person isn't, a person who is just oppressive towards everybody. You see a person, you may have and he sometimes a little, in his conduct or in his behavior, it seems like he's a little pompous or arrogant. That doesn't make the person absolutely pompous or arrogant, right? Just in a particular situation, he might have been feeling himself. In a particular situation, he might have just been feeling a little, good about himself. But it doesn't mean that's always how the person is. You see one thing from a person, it doesn't define a person. A person who mistreats you one time doesn't mean that he's always going to be like that. You don't just put the person on a blacklist that you don't deal with this person anymore. So on and so forth. بل إذا أخذته بالعفو وعاملته باللطف ودفعته بالتي هي أحسن تحسنت أخلاقه. But what happens? If you do as Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala has ordered in the Quran, you take the person as they come. And you treat the person with lutf. You treat the person with delicacy and with gentleness. And you repay that mistreatment in a manner that is best and most beautiful. Then you will have an impact and effect upon that person, and their character will highly likely is going to improve. وَاسْتَفَادَ مِنْكَ خُلُقًا كَرِيمًا. And they're going to learn good character from you. وَالْوَاقِعُ الَّذِي يَنْبَغِي أن يكون في مثل هذا المقام أن يستفيد صاحب الخلق السيء من صاحب الخلق الجميل لا أن تنعكس القضية بأن يكون صاحب الخلق الجميل هو المتأثر بصاحب الخلق السيء بل الحق أن يبقى على مستواه في الخلق العالي والدفع بالتي هي أحسن. He says, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, the reality of the affair should be as follows: that it is befitting in this situation that the person who has bad character should benefit from the person with good character. If a person mistreats somebody else, showing bad character in the process, then they should, in this interaction, they should benefit from how this person reacts to them. They should benefit from how this person reacts to them. And not the opposite. And not the opposite. Because if the opposite happens, then what has occurred in this situation is that the person with beautiful character has been affected and impacted by the person with bad character. As opposed to him having an effect upon them, they had an effect upon him. But what is true and correct in this situation is that he should stay upon the level that he is upon, that Allah has endowed him with a lofty character, and defending himself بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ, in a manner that is most beautiful. وَكَذْمِ الْغَيْظِ, and restraining his anger and rage. وَالْعَفْوِ عَنِ النَّاسِ, and pardoning the people. حَتَّى يَسْتَفِيدُ مِنْ أَخْلَاقِهِ الْجَمِيلَةِ وَأَدَبِهِ الْكَرِيمَ وَأَدَبِهِ الْكَرِيمِ. Until they, and to the extent that they ultimately benefit from his beautiful character and from his noble etiquette. كَمَا يَأْمُرُ الرَّحْمَنُ فِيهِ وَيُرْشِدُ, as Ar-Rahman Tabarak wa Ta'ala has ordered us to do, and as He has directed us to do. أي كما يأمرك بذلك الله سبحانه وتعالى في قوله الذي سمعناه خذ العفو وأمر بالعرف وأعرض عن الجاهلين. As Ar-Rahman has instructed in this situation, as we heard in the verse in Surah Al-A'raf, and He accepts that which is natural from the people and unforced, and pardon them if necessary, وَأَمُرْ بِالْعُرْفِ, and instruct them with that which is beautiful and goodly, وَأَعْرِضْ عَنِ الْجَاهِلِينَ, and turn away from the jahilin, meaning do not repay them with foolish behavior, and He turn away from repaying them with in an incorrect fashion. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.